Peter Badel, mate, always good to catch up. Nikita Tszyu-Ben Mahoney, fight week tonight, grand arrivals. Set the scene for us, mate. What was it like out there? What did you see?
Oh, look, fantastic event. It always is to sort of kick off the week. We love the grand arrivals. It's always a nice way to just relax a little bit, and then it gets really serious tomorrow for the fighters. But interesting to see the dynamic between Nikita and Ben Mahoney. Oh, very respectful. Look, I don't think it's going to be a night of spite, or might be in the ring, but between the two guys, they're respectful guys. There's a lot of, you can see there's not a real hatred between them. So in that sense, we're not going to see any real barbs and verbal jabs. But I've got to say, for both men, this is a real beautiful intersection, a crossroads fight for both men, and the winner goes on to something pretty special potentially, and the loser, well, for Nikita Tszyu, a loss would be catastrophic. So for Ben Mahoney, I guess no one really gives him a chance. I give him a real chance, and so I think Nikita's got to watch himself because he's got his work cut out. But I think Nikita, the trajectory we're seeing him at the moment, I think he could produce something pretty special on Wednesday night.
What are you made of Nikita's demeanour and his mindset? I interviewed him before, and he sort of said that he's kind of over the same questions being asked. He's over the fight week build-up. He's over all that. What's your read on Nikita Tszyu right now?
Don't ask him how his fight camp is.
Or how he's feeling.
Say it's the shittest camp ever.
Or how he's feeling.
I love that. He actually had me fooled. I believed him for a second. But look, I think Nikita's in a probably one of the better headspaces I've seen. I think he's reached a juncture in his career where at age 28, he had about 5 or 6 years away from the sport. He was working as an architect, so they were really key progression years. And I think now that he's come back as a pro, he's been a pro now for 4 years, I think there was the first sort of 2 to 3 years were very much developmental, and then he had that hand injury, which was quite nagging for him. He had to have surgery, so he missed a bit of time out of the ring. But I just thought that last performance against Diaz showed to me that he can win a world title. And I know he's still got... I know this is a world title eliminator, which would put Nikita in contention for Josh Kelly if he wins this fight. I wouldn't take that fight just yet. I'd probably urge caution. But I think in the next 2 to 3 fights, I really do believe Nikita Tszyu can win a world title. I didn't think I'd say that back in 2023 when he was 1 year into being a pro. But what I've seen against Diaz and what I think we'll see on Wednesday night against Ben Mahoney will prove to a lot of people that he is the real deal.
Now, there was some news circulating this week, and you actually broke the news a few months ago about Keith Thurman and that potential fight. Man, how realistic are the Thurmans, Harrisons, those sort of names?
Oh, totally realistic. I think Harrison, absolutely. I mean, Harrison himself has said he wouldn't mind a crack at Nikita or Michael Zarafa, the great Michael Zarafa. So, look, I believe, well, the next step for No Limit is they want to take Nikita Tszyu to America for a Vegas debut in December. Now, that may not be predicated on necessarily whether he fights Josh Kelly. I think they'll go down a different route. I believe they'll look at an American opponent, and if they want a US opponent, well, it brings Superbad into the equation, Harrison, and it brings Thurman into the equation. Now, you would have to argue that in terms of getting the right fight at the right time at the right stage, Nikita would be getting Harrison or Thurman at a great point in their careers. I mean, Harrison is 36 next week. Thurman's 37. I think they're at a point in their careers where they're very beatable. Probably at their peak, they probably beat Nikita on experience, but I think Nikita has the one-punch power to hurt both men. And we saw against Thurman, I mean, he was sliced and diced by Fundora, 6 rounds of bloodshed for him. And you could almost argue that Tszyu acquitted himself better against Fundora than Thurman did. So if that's the case, drawing some sort of form line, well, why can't Nikita beat those two guys? And I'd love to see it happen. I'd rather Nikita fight a Harrison or Thurman next than Josh Kelly. I think they're very winnable fights, and it would really elevate Nikita and give him the confidence he needs to win a world title.
So on that Josh Kelly fight, we saw Nikita say that he doesn't like the IBF and the rehydration clause and such. Could he be almost better going to middleweight, Nikita Tszyu? Like, where's the path towards a belt at that weight for him? I mean, it's a tough division. Fundora, Boots.
Yeah. Well, it's stacked, isn't it? I mean, you would argue, and Tim's probably finding this out himself, that going to 160, the depth's nowhere near as great, and you're in with a real chance. I mean, Denzel Bentley is very beatable. I think Nikita or Tim could beat him. Erislandy Lara is a great technician, one of the greatest practitioners of the last 15, 20 years, but he's 43 years old, and you'd have to argue that at some point he'll be on the wane. So, Janabek, we know what's happened there. I mean, and he was a magnificent technician, and Janabek beats most people in that division. But I think Nikita, in terms of the rehydration, I wouldn't be too worried about that. I mean, look, he has talked about how hard he's done the weight cut at times, but I think that he's got a great dietitian. Dave Barker does a wonderful job with him. I mean, we saw him against Diaz. He was as ripped as I've ever seen any fighter. I mean, his body fat percentage must have been around 5-6%. So, look, I don't think he's probably got that much more to lose, Nikita, but the problem is with the rehydration, both he and Tim generally put on about 8 to 9 kilos. That's about 20 pounds. So that was problematic for Tim against Murtazaliev. And I can understand what Nikita's saying, but I hope he stays at 154 if he can, even though it's a stronger division. But I think that's where his power punching can really shine. So, look, but first things first, the Mahoney fight, Macca, that's the real fascination for me. I'm so excited to see how this fight plays out.
But mate, Tszyu, where does he go from here? What are you sort of hearing? What's the news on Tszyu? Where could we see him next?
Well, I heard that they were looking at potentially a November fight, although the word I've since heard is that Tim may not really want that date yet, that he may want to push it back. He wants more of a break. He said after the Spence fight that he just wanted to have a good rest, so he may prefer to fight in the new year, maybe January, February, March. So whether that's palatable to No Limit and Jeff Fennick, his new trainer, I don't know. I think there'd be an inclination for No Limit to want him to fight around October, November, December. So, but Lara shapes as the most likely opponent. I know there's been talk of other opponents. I know Jamel Charlo's claiming that he'll fight Tim next, but I think that I think Lara will be the right fight for Tim.
What, I guess, did you make of Tszyu's fight against Spence? We haven't really dissected that. Since that fight, and is he ready for a belt just yet, or does he need a couple more fights with Jeff? I mean, Jeff said himself he'd love to have Tim for a bit longer. Is he ready for those champs?
Depending on the opponent, I'd say Lara, yes. Put him in right now. I mean, Lara's 43. If Tszyu can't beat a 43-year-old Lara, as great as a technician as he is, and a beautifully skilled boxer, Cuban style, but if Tim can't beat a 43-year-old, then he should retire, really. But I think Tszyu can beat Erislandy Lara. I really do. And I think Tim, look, the way I look back on that Spence fight, it was almost a narrative of a guy, to me, two guys past their best, but Spence was more washed up. And I thought, that's not to say Tim's washed up. I think Tim's zenith years, that 2023 period when he beat Mendoza in the greatest performance of his career for mine, I don't think Tim will probably ever get back to that level, but I think Tim is still good enough at his current state to win a world title, at least at 160. I don't think he beats Abu Senes right now, but he can beat Erislandy Lara, and so that's the fight I'd be taking next. I wouldn't worry about stay busy fights. I think Tim's next fight has to be Lara, and he can get the job done against him.
Now, mate, Liam Paro, he's well and truly in the mix there. A world champion at 147, a big fight today in the US. Could we see a unification between Liam Paro and Teofimo Lopez? What's next for Liam Paro?
Well, the permutations are fascinating out of this, because I know that what I've been told is that there was a pretty fair financial offer put to the Haney camp. I'm told Liam wanted around $2 to $3 million, and that was rejected. So I think Liam was probably reluctant to take the Haney fight anyway, because let's face it, Haney's one of the greatest boxers of his generation. I think he probably is too cerebral and probably not the right fighter for Liam. I think Liam likes a fighter who will engage, a bit like Crocker, and he can walk people into punches. So I think in terms of boxing skill, Haney probably wins that fight, if I'm honest. But I think Liam can beat anyone else in the division. I really do believe that. And I think that the result with Teofimo beating Rolly today throws a spanner in the works, because as we know, Romero, PBC stable, would have been a beautiful matchup for Liam, even they would have been able to broker that with No Limit. So they were probably hoping Romero would win to make that happen. However, if it was to be Teofimo and Paro, bring it on, absolutely. I think Liam can beat him. However, I think Teofimo probably wants to go down the Haney route, 2 all superstar Americans, huge money fight, and that's going to be the complication now for Liam. He's almost too dangerous to take on, and he doesn't have a lot of cachet in terms of sellability and marketability to the American audiences. So that's going to be the dilemma for Liam Paro. But right now, for me, I don't really think it matters for Liam Paro in terms of how many more belts he has. I mean, he's now a 2-division world champion. He could probably go up and go for a 3-division world champion. But for me now, I hope Liam Paro just gets the big paydays and get the $2 or $3 million paydays that'll set him up for life.
What about George Kambosos? He's sort of come in the mix there. How did that all transpire, and what would you make of a Liam Paro George Kambosos matchup?
Love it. Look, I've spoken to No Limit about this myself privately and said, look, I'd love to see that fight. I think it'd be a great all-Australian blockbuster. There's a bit of a Mediterranean flavour, the Greek element, the Greek heritage of George, the Italian heritage of Paro, both proud Aussies, of course. So it'd be a great crossroads fight for both men, because George is, some people would say, on the wane. Again, probably past his best from that great Teofimo performance, which we'll never forget, one of the greatest wins in Australian boxing. But George is he's a proud man, he's a fit man, he goes into the ring always in supreme shape, and I think George will back himself to beat Liam. If I was a betting man, I think Liam Paro beats George Kambosos. I think he outboxes him. However, George will always go down swinging, and he's always a puncher's chance, and I think right now, if they can make that fight happen, I think it's a money spinner for both men, and I think in Australia we'd all get behind it. So I know there's been talks between both camps. It's just about putting the fight together now at the right time. But I'd love to see Paro Kambosos. It would be a blockbuster.
All right, mate, give us your final prediction here. Nikita Tszyu-Ben Mahoney, who wins the fight and why?
I think Nikita wins. It will be the toughest fight of his career. I think Ben Mahoney is very underestimated. He's a plucky customer, crafty campaigner. And the big variable in this fight for me, Macca, will be the fact that it's 12 rounds. Nikita's never gone 12 rounds, so this would be a huge test of his durability over a real world title distance. I think Mahoney has had 40 Muay Thai kickboxing fights on top of 18 boxing fights. That's 58 fights, and he's never been stopped. Never been stopped in 58 fights. Phenomenal. And I think that Mahoney's a very, very cerebral fighter, has beautiful IQ, great feet, great evasion, and knows how to pop when he has to. And he's not a big power puncher, but he's got the ability to time and walk opponents on the shots, as Ben Hussein found out when he broke his jaw. So look, I think overall, the longer the fight goes, it plays into Mahoney's hands. But I'll tell you now too, Nikita will not be the hardest fight or hardest customer Ben Mahoney's ever had. He's fought blokes in Muay Thai that have broken his vertebra, broken his ribs, broken his hand 7 times as a fighter. What a tough bugger. And so that's what Nikita's about to walk into. And so he'll go out on his shield, Ben Mahoney. However, I just think that Nikita will be able to close the distance, and when he closes the distance, he will finish off Ben Mahoney, and that's how he'll win. I think he wins by stoppage around the 9th or 10th round.
Beautiful, Pete. Appreciate your time, mate. We'll catch up again soon.
Thanks, Macca.